It was a normal Tuesday night. I was 23, working my first week as the night clerk at a small motel in northern Wisconsin. The lobby smelled faintly of old carpet and cleaning solution, and the fluorescent lights buzzed quietly above me. Usually, nights like this were slow. I would check in a few guests, answer the phone, maybe tidy up the lobby. Nothing unusual ever happened. That night, I remember thinking how peaceful it felt. The parking lot was empty except for a single car near the far end. Outside, the neon vacancy sign flickered on and off, but that was nothing new. This motel had been around for decades. I liked that calm. It made the work feel manageable, even comforting in a strange way. I had worked retail jobs before, but night shifts always had this quiet rhythm that I actually enjoyed. I was leaning on the front desk, filling out some paperwork, when I noticed something odd. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement down one of the long hallways behind me. At first, I thought it was one of the guests checking in early, but when I glanced up, the hallway was empty. The lights flickered slightly, as if they were responding to the motion. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was a trick of the light or my imagination. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't entirely alone. The lobby was quiet, too quiet, like the building was holding its breath. The kind of silence that makes every small sound, like the creak of a floorboard or the distant hum of the air conditioning, stand out sharply. I shook my head and tried to focus on my paperwork, but something about that hallway kept pulling my attention back. I kept telling myself I was imagining things. Maybe a stray shadow from the neon sign outside, or a curtain moving in a draft. Still, the unease didn't go away. It was subtle, just a small hint that something was off. Nothing had actually happened yet. No knocking on doors. No strange noises from the rooms. Just that movement or the feeling of movement that didn't belong. That's when I heard it, a faint sound, like soft breathing, barely audible but unmistakable. I froze, trying to locate it. The sound stopped as quickly as it started, leaving me wondering if I had really heard anything at all. My heart rate quickened a little, not in full panic, but in that low, uneasy way that tells you something isn't right, even if you can't see it.
It was a normal night.
The motel was normal.
I was just doing my job.
And yet, for the first time, I realized that maybe the night wasn't as empty as it seemed. Something or someone was there, watching. The motel I worked at was small and old, the kind of place you'd pass by without noticing if you weren't looking. It had 2 floors, long narrow hallways with faded carpet, and a front desk tucked into a corner near the entrance. Each room had a number above the door and a small window with yellowing curtains. Most nights, the place was quiet, sometimes eerily so. That night, it was just after 8 in the evening. The sun had set an hour or so ago, and a cold wind blew through the parking lot, rattling the old metal sign outside. I liked nights like this at first. They felt calm, orderly. The only sounds were the hum of the fluorescent lights above, the faint buzz of the refrigerator in the small kitchen, and the occasional car pulling into the lot. I was there because I needed the job. I had moved to the area a few months earlier, just trying to make ends meet. Nights were slow, but the pay was steady, and management was easygoing. Most nights, it was simple. Check in a guest, answer a few questions, maybe call maintenance if something broke. Sometimes, a delivery truck would arrive, or a traveler would stop for a short stay. Rarely did anything unusual happen. I had met the other staff briefly. Megan, the day clerk, was friendly enough and had warned me about the occasional creepy guest, but nothing serious ever came of it. The maintenance guy, Tom, was a quiet older man who kept to himself. On nights like this, I was usually alone.
That was fine with me.
I liked the quiet. I liked the routine. The hallway stretched behind me, long and dimly lit, with one light flickering near the stairwell. The rooms were all closed, doors locked, the kind of place where you could hear every small noise echo. Outside, the wind made the sign sway, casting shadows through the lobby windows. I glanced at the clock. 8:15. Nothing unusual. Guests were checked in, the lobby was tidy, and I had a few hours of calm ahead. Still, there was something about the way the shadows moved that night. The corners of the lobby seemed darker than usual. The air felt heavier, colder. I shook my head, and told myself I was imagining things. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. I had a cup of coffee next to me, the steam curling up, and tried to focus on my shift. But even in this quiet, ordinary place, I felt it, the sense that the building wasn't completely empty. Not that anything had happened yet, but there was a subtle awareness like the walls were listening. I looked down the hallway again, noticing the faint flicker of the lights, the way the shadows pooled near the corners, the soft creak of the floor under my own feet. Nothing concrete, nothing threatening, just the normal, ordinary night stretching out ahead. And that was when I realized, even in normal places, the night has a way of hiding things. Things that you don't notice until it's too late. After a while, the quiet started to feel heavier. I was at the front desk, filing paperwork, when I heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from a hallway behind the lobby. At first, I ignored it. Maybe it was a guest fumbling with their key, or the old building settling. But the sound came again, slow, deliberate, almost like nails dragging along the carpet. I got up to check the hallway. Nothing. The rooms were all closed, locked, and empty. The light at the far end of the corridor flickered for a moment, and I noticed the shadow of the stairwell stretching longer than it should have. I blinked, thinking it was just the angle of the fluorescent light. But even after I turned back, the unease lingered. As I returned to the desk, the phone rang. I jumped slightly, picking it up. No one was there, just static. I hung up, telling myself these things happen sometimes. The building was old, the lines probably bad. Yet the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I could feel it, the shift from normal to something else. Then I heard it again, a soft thump, like someone walking lightly on the carpeted hallway. I froze, straining to hear. Another step, then silence. I tried to convince myself it was another guest checking in late, but I knew every check-in that night. There hadn't been anyone else. I walked slowly toward the hallway, keeping one hand on the counter. The lights flickered again. A shadow moved past the doorway to the maintenance closet. My heart picked up, but I stayed calm, telling myself it was a trick of the eye. The hallway looked empty, but the feeling didn't go away. I had the distinct impression that someone or something was watching me. I went back to the desk, keeping my eyes on the hallway. Every creak, every hum, felt amplified. The ventilation system rattled. The distant buzz of a car horn outside echoed through the lobby. The shadow near the stairwell seemed to linger just a little longer than it should. My coffee had gone cold, but I couldn't focus on anything but the faint noises and the sense that I wasn't alone. Then I heard it clearly this time, a slow, deliberate breathing from the end of the hall. I froze completely, staring at the sea. Human. Whoever it was, they weren't moving yet. But they were there. I could feel it. I took a step back, my hand brushing the counter. My mind raced with possibilities. Maybe it was a guest who had wandered into the wrong hallway. Maybe a maintenance worker who forgot something. But deep down, I knew it was something else. Something that didn't belong. The calm night had vanished. The building felt different, heavier, like it was closing in around me. And I realized, for the first time that night, that I wasn't imagining the danger. I wasn't alone. The hallway felt different now, heavier, like the air itself had changed. I was behind the front desk, trying to convince myself I was overreacting, but the sound told a different story. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the far end of the corridor. Not the light, quick scuffing I had heard before, but heavy steps, measured, almost like someone was stalking the floor. I stayed still, listening. My heart raced quietly, the kind of steady panic that makes you aware of every small sound. The ventilation rattled. A door somewhere along the hall creaked open and closed. I knew I hadn't touched it. The sound echoed in the otherwise silent building, and I felt a tight knot form in my stomach. I wasn't alone. I could feel it in my chest, in the small hairs on the back of my neck, standing on end. I considered calling maintenance or even stepping outside, but that thought quickly vanished. Whoever, or whatever, was there had chosen this moment carefully. The sense of being watched grew stronger. Shadows along the hallway walls flickered, stretching and compressing as if someone was moving just out of sight. Every now and then, I thought I caught a glimpse of a dark shape disappearing around a corner, but when I blinked, nothing was there. I tried to focus on my routine. I checked the cameras on the small monitor behind the desk. Nothing. The parking lot was empty, the rooms all dark. But the cameras didn't cover the back hallway, the one near the maintenance closet. That hallway had always felt tight and narrow, and now it felt like a trap. I felt pinned to the lobby, unable to leave without risking something. Then I heard it again, breathing, closer this time, shallow and deliberate. I could tell it wasn't mine. My fingers tightened around the counter edge. The shadow in the hallway stretched longer, moving just slightly toward the lobby. I froze completely. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. The layout of the motel made me feel cornered. I realized, with a sinking feeling, that the place I thought was safe now offered no escape. The footsteps moved closer, brushing against the carpet where they shouldn't have been. I caught a glimpse of a dark figure near the stairwell, tall, unsteady, leaning slightly forward. The lights flickered, and for a moment, I could see the outline of a man standing still, watching. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Every part of me screamed to act, but my mind was frozen with disbelief. I had never seen anyone here before. I didn't know who it was or what they wanted. All I knew was that he was getting closer. And the moment I realized he had chosen this exact night, this exact shift, to show himself, I knew that nothing in the calm, quiet motel would stop him. I could feel it in the silence that followed the steps. He was patient, deliberate, and completely real. He wasn't going anywhere, and neither could I. I couldn't ignore it any longer. The figure at the end of the hallway was real. Not a shadow, not a trick of the light. A man, tall and lean, standing perfectly still, watching me. I froze for a moment, heart hammering, trying to convince myself he might leave. He didn't. He took a slow step forward, and the sound of his foot brushing against the carpet made me flinch. I grabbed the phone, but my hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped it. The line was dead. I tried again. Nothing. Panic started to rise. The desk chair scraped as I pushed it back and bolted toward the stairwell leading to the exit. Every step echoed down the empty hall. Behind me, I heard his footsteps match mine, slow, deliberate, following. I reached the stairwell and yanked the door open, but the metal stairs creaked under my weight. I thought he would hesitate, but he didn't. He appeared at the top of the stairs, just long enough to catch my eye. I could see the edge of his face in the flickering light. There was nothing familiar in it, just intent. He was there to do something. I didn't know what, and I didn't want to find out. I ran down the stairs, nearly tripping over each step, and reached the exit door. It was locked. Of course it was locked. The motel always kept the doors bolted at night. My hands shook as I tried the key in the lock, fumbling with it while every instinct screamed at me to get outside. Behind me, the footsteps grew louder, faster. I could hear him breathing now, closer, matching my own panicked rhythm. I slammed the door open and ran into the cold night air. The parking lot was empty, the neon sign casting its sickly glow across the asphalt. I didn't look back, just ran for the nearest streetlight, screaming for help. The wind bit my face, but I didn't care. I could hear him, just the faintest sound of movement behind me, but I kept going. Somehow, I made it to a neighbor's house. I banged on the door, gasping, hands raw from the cold. A man opened it, startled, and I barely managed to tell him that someone was in the motel. He called the police while I tried to catch my breath, heart still racing, adrenaline making my hands shake uncontrollably. By the time the cops arrived, the man was gone. They searched the motel inside and out. Nothing. No sign of him. No footprints in the snow outside. Just the locked doors, empty rooms. I grabbed the phone, but my hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped it. The line was dead. I tried again. Nothing. Panic started to rise. The desk chair scraped as I pushed it back and bolted toward the stairwell leading to the exit. Every step echoed down the empty hall. Behind me, I heard his footsteps match mine, slow, deliberate, following. I reached the stairwell and yanked the door open, but the metal stairs creaked under my weight. I thought he would hesitate, but he didn't. He appeared at the top of the stairs, just long enough to catch my eye. I could see the edge of his face in the flickering light. There was nothing familiar in it, just intent. He was there to do something. I didn't know what, and I didn't want to find out. I ran down the stairs, nearly tripping over each step, and reached the exit door. It was locked. Of course it was locked. The motel always kept the doors bolted at night. My hands shook as I tried the key in the lock, fumbling with it while every instinct screamed at me to get outside. Behind me, the footsteps grew louder, faster. I could hear him breathing now, closer, matching my own panicked rhythm. I slammed the door open and ran into the cold night air. The parking lot was empty, the neon sign casting its sickly glow across the asphalt. I didn't look back, just ran for the nearest streetlight, screaming for help. The wind bit my face, but I didn't care. I could hear him, just the faintest sound of movement behind me, but I kept going. Somehow, I made it to a neighbor's house. I banged on the door, gasping, hands raw from the cold. A man opened it, startled, and I barely managed to tell him that someone was in the motel. He called the police while I tried to catch my breath, heart still racing, adrenaline making my hands shake uncontrollably. By the time the cops arrived, the man was gone. They searched the motel inside and out. Nothing. No sign of him. No footprints in the snow outside. Just the locked doors, empty rooms, and the echo of my own footsteps from the stairwell. I kept explaining what I had seen, how he had followed me, how he had been waiting. The officers nodded politely, but their eyes said what I already feared. They had no idea who he was, and probably never would. I stood there under the streetlight, chest heaving, listening to the silence around the motel. The calm night I had started with was gone. In its place, a hollow unease that made me certain he could come back anytime, and that the motel would never feel safe again. I thought I was safe once I reached the streetlight, but the police had only just begun their work. They searched every hallway, every room, but found nothing. No footprints outside, no signs of forced entry, nothing to explain what I'd just gone through. They asked me to describe him again, and I did. Tall, lean, shadowed face, deliberate movements. The description matched nothing they had on record. Later, I learned something that made my stomach twist. The maintenance closet, the one near the stairwell where I first saw him, had been empty all along. The cleaning staff swore no one had been in that area. And the security cameras? The ones I thought might help, they had been tampered with. Not completely broken, just enough so that the hallway he had been in was erased from the footage for the entire night. He had been there, hiding, but he had planned this. Then came the detail that really shook me. The police discovered a small vent in the hallway one I had never noticed, just big enough for a person to squeeze through. They found scratch marks inside it, along with remnants of what looked like old clothing fibers. He had been in the building for hours before I even arrived, watching me, waiting. Every step I thought I had heard, every shadow I imagined, he had caused. He had been inside all along, using the motel itself as a trap. The most disturbing part? They couldn't find him. Not outside, not anywhere in the building. He had vanished completely. Someone so meticulous, so careful, that it was impossible to know how he left, or if he was still inside somewhere, watching silently. I kept replaying the night over and over in my head. That flickering light in the stairwell, the soft breathing, the slow steps. It wasn't random. He had known exactly what to do to make me think the building itself was haunted, to make me feel trapped. Every moment of fear had been engineered, every pause, every flicker of shadow. The police told me it wasn't uncommon for intruders to hide in empty buildings, but I knew this was different. This was deliberate, focused, patient. He hadn't just wanted to scare me. He had wanted me to notice him, to feel his presence, but not know him. I couldn't help imagining where he might have been, how long he had waited in the vents or the shadows, just out of sight. It hit me fully that night. He could have been there the entire time, even as I thought I was safe. Every creak of the floor, every flicker of light, every strange shadow, it was all him. And the part that made my blood run cold? He could be back. He knew the building, he knew the exits, and he had been watching. I realized then that the calm nights I thought I understood, the ordinary places I trusted, they weren't safe. He had made sure I would never feel that normalcy again. And in that moment, I understood the full extent of what I had just survived. Even after that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that he hadn't truly left. The police never found him. No footprints, no traces outside, nothing that explained how he had disappeared. They questioned me, went over my account, checked the cameras, even searched the vents and closets. But it was like he had simply vanished into thin air. Sometimes I wonder if he was ever caught, if he even exists anywhere now, or if he simply moves silently from place to place, the kind of person who can make an ordinary night feel like a trap without anyone knowing. The police never solved the case. The motel has a new night clerk now. I haven't gone back. And yet, sometimes, when the wind rattles a window or a shadow stretches a little longer than it should, I can't help but think, maybe he's still out there, watching, waiting, patient, ready to return to a quiet, empty place where someone thinks they're alone. Because the truth is, I still don't know who he was or what he might do next.